Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Frozen Fortunes, but of course this time it is the analysis video. Now, I'm obviously a little bit rusty at doing this type of stuff, so just try to bear with me. There's going to be less sort of cuts and stuff, because obviously having to edit a very, very long video could be quite time consuming. So I'm going to be trying to be a bit more stream of consciousness than perhaps I am in the videos, but I think we can kind of get away with that a bit more in these type of videos. So, without further ado, let's get into some of the stuff. And by the way, guys, if you have any ideas for things you want me to show in these videos to do with just anything I might miss, then do be sure to let me know in the comments, and I can potentially incorporate something like that into the next one of these that we do. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm just going to give you a sort of a layout of what's going to happen. We're going to go through some of the stats for the team and the player stats for the league first, so we can sort of see where we line up against other teams, potentially find some areas that we could improve in overall, and then we're going to have a look through the actual players we've got in the squad, how they've performed using the analysis filters I've been building. Now, they might not be perfectly to your taste, but I'm doing things so that I can understand what's on the screen, and that's kind of what's important. It's not one of these situations where I'm saying, this is what you should do, this is why this is the case. I'm simply saying my opinion on things and trying to work out some stuff in my head to come up with ideas for how we can get this save going forward next season. And there's already a few things I'm spotting just from tiny little off-camera glances at bits of stats when I was pulling them in that I think we can improve in next season. So, looking at the average possession for the league, you can see that we've got the lowest, which is interesting, but again, not entirely surprising considering the fact that we play almost always on the counter-attack. So we're generally giving other teams the ball, and I'm not too bothered about that. I don't think that's really that important for us. It's not like we're like 38% on average. Yeah, some games we get really quite low, but it's not super low. It's still sort of within the range of some other teams in the league. As for penalties taken, well, we've only had 4 penalties this year, but we have scored 3 of them, which isn't bad, I guess. I felt like we've had more than that, but I guess we just haven't, really. Looking at headers won, that's an area we are actually doing quite well in. Plus, with 59% of them actually won, overall isn't too bad. Noticing how a lot of the teams with the best amount of headers won generally are teams towards the bottom of the table, except for Arbey and Helsingor, who are the 2 worst teams for headers. And Arbey, well, they got relegated, so you can sort of maybe understand why. Just not winning enough in the air and able to completely be out-muscled in that situation. Odense have the best headers won ratio, but we're 4th on that one too. Esbjerg, interestingly, won the title by having the worst, which means I guess they keep it on the floor, or it certainly feels like that anyway. Yellow cards, we're up there. We do commit a lot of fouls because we're told to get in quite hard on people, and that's fine. And I think over time, as we get better players, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. I don't think we had a red this year. No, we didn't. In fact, Frameman and Marion at least had 3 each, which is quite a bit. Form isn't quite so bothering. I'm not interested in any of that stuff really particularly. Right, this is what we're interested in. Goals. Overall, we were the 3rd highest goal scorers in the league with 58 goals, which is great. And I really do think if we could just sort ourselves out defensively, i.e. get into the stage where we're not conceding goals from set pieces, or at least as many, and we'll see just how many we've conceded when we get to that bit in a minute, and looking slightly better now that we're not conceding quite so many goals from those crosses from the wings, or we're certainly I think it will definitely decrease now that we're doing what we're doing, then we'd be on for a much, much better finish if we could just sort out our defence. That's the simple facts of the matter. Looking at the cross completion, it's only 15%. I would like to see it be higher than that, considering we rely on a lot of crosses to get our goals, whether it be from strikers or whether it be from our wingbacks. Now, I don't know if that's partly due to the fact that some of our crosses that are played by our strikers are counted as passes because of how close they are to the goal when often they sweep it across. So, who knows? We're still mid-table on that one, but I'd like to be more up in the... I mean, it's fractional, but I would prefer to be sort of 16%, and certainly not down as low as 10. So I guess there's that. Overall amount of crosses completed is very low. So it's a situation of we're getting a decent amount of them completed in terms of the average, the ratio of them, but just not as many crosses in general. So maybe crossing more could help with that next season. I don't know. Goals from corners, right? This should be fun. How many goals have we scored from corners? We've scored 4 times from corners this year. Kurga have the most with 10. I genuinely think we've conceded more than 10 goals from corners. I think maybe 13. It'll be considerably more than anyone else. I genuinely think that. Goals from direct free kicks. We've scored, look at this. There's been 6 goals from direct free kicks in the entire season. Why doesn't FM... This cannot be legitimate. Think of how many goals are scored from direct... I know it's a lower league, but come on, they still happen. I feel like even in the Danish second division, there'd be more than 6 goals from direct free kicks in a season. But this seems to have been a problem for as long as I've been playing FM. Certainly since I last did a save. This sort of shit used to happen all the time with Wimbledon too. Goals from indirect free kicks. We've got 4 of those, so we're sort of mid-table in these sort of areas, which is fine. Pass completion, ours is going to be very, very low at 64%. because we play so many long balls. And yeah, maybe we could look to bring that up, but I just don't think it really suits our tactic to be trying to concentrate on pass completion when goal completion is what I'm kind of more interested in. And we're even, look at this, so low on the passes completed amount. I think maybe we could look to tweak a few things to try and improve that a tiny little bit, because that is going to cost us. If we don't have the ball and we're losing possession all the time, then perhaps maybe retain possession as an instruction would be something we could look into, just to try and keep the ball a little bit more and recycle the possession a bit more. Maybe that's something we can look at. Who knows? Chances created. Look at that. Not too bad. 140, joint fourth in the league in terms of chances created. I'm very, very pleased with that. I really, really am. I'd like to see the distinction between that and clear cut and half chances, but unfortunately we don't have that option. What I'd really like is an XG analysis. I wish FM could incorporate some kind of XG, and it wouldn't be that difficult because it has all the stats built into the game, so it could possibly be done. Now this is interesting. Most amount of shots on target ratio, 49% of our shots have been on target. That is staggering. That's 7% more than even teams that were right at the top of the league, which to me means that if we could just get a few more shooting opportunities, this is what I mean, this is quite obviously what's happening. When I was saying about the thing where we're scoring a lot of goals off of not many chances, this is why, because we're getting so many. Nearly 50% conversion rate is actually very, very good. Number of shots on target, you'll see though, down in 7th. If we could have built this up a little bit, we'd just be scoring even more goals, which is great. Fouls against, we're not conceding many fouls either, but we are definitely making a lot of fouls. Dribbles per game, again, very low, an average of 7. Maybe having some better dribblers, particularly in those wing-back positions, could certainly help. One thing I've always wanted is those wing-backs to have a little bit better dribbling so they could go past the first line of defence and get those balls in the box. But it's going to be a while before we can talk about anything like that. Right, goals. Conceded. We've conceded 6 more goals than the team that came bottom of the league and 13 more of the other team that got relegated. That should tell you all you need to know. Right, look at this. Oh, it was 13. Number of goals conceded from corners. 13 of those goals came from goddamn corners. This is insane. I'm just looking at this now. 13 goals from corners, 1 from a direct free kick, and 4 from indirect free kick, which means we conceded 18 goals this season from set-piece situations. That is unbelievable. 18 goals. That's like 25% of our goals have come from set pieces. If we could get it to the point where it's just sort of, you know, reasonable like a lot of other teams. Has anyone conceded more than us from those situations? Our Bay have conceded 17. If we could just bring that down a tiny little bit, we'd save ourselves so many goals, and God knows how many points we'd gain if we could just sort out our defending set pieces. I might just train that incessantly over the summer and try. If anyone's got any ideas for a defending set pieces tactic for corners and free kicks, then do let me know, because I'd be very interested in it, because this cannot continue to happen. It's just not acceptable for us. As for conceding from corners, well, I mean, we've already done this bit, haven't we? So yeah, bottom of the league by an absolute country mile. I mean, we've also conceded one of the direct free kicks. Odense actually conceded 2, which is interestingly. Conceded from indirect free kicks, not the worst, so I guess there's that. Clean sheets, ironically, again, not the worst, but that's probably because of our late run this season, where we got sort of 4 or 5 in that last set of the season, which has probably saved us from conceding even more goals, to be honest. Although we are still conceding from set pieces, it would seem. Most fouls, yeah, miles more than that. We are at least making more tackles than anyone else, but I guess that's because we've barely got the ball. Tackles won ratio, look at that, 67%, the worst in the league. Now, again, I think that might improve now that we're closing people down a bit more and not just lunging at tackles constantly. Because to me, if we're making the most tackles, conceding the most fouls, but have the lowest tackles won ratio, there's definitely something up there that needs to be looked at. Highest average attendance, okay, it's Kurga, but it's not, because that's just a thing that's messed up in the database. We have the second lowest, so at least it's not the lowest. Unfortunately, 23% of capacity is not great. We will take a long time to fill that. We've never filled it out. Highest attendance, what was it? 554. Look at that. I don't know what our lowest was. Our lowest was 400 and something. So I guess not the end of the world. I mean, it's pretty consistent. Net transfer spend. A few teams have spent some stuff, at least. Oh, what about salary per annum? That is interesting. Our salary per annum is actually higher than some other teams in this division, which means that we've really got no excuse for not doing a little bit better, really. Although, I guess look at that. £1.2 million Odense is spending in those situations. Right, let's take a quick look at the player detailed ones as well. I'm just interested to see if we've got any players on these things. Games won, we're not going to have anyone on that at all. Games lost, we'll have a few. Oh no, we won't. We've been good enough to avoid that. Yellow cards, Betzer is up there, and Betzer is the only one, interestingly. So that might as well be a factor. I don't know why that is. Has Betzer got really poor tackling? 6. It's not. Could be better, but it could be worse too. Red cards, we've got none of those. Man of the match, we should have a few of those. Alan Franson had 7, which was the joint most in the league. I'm pretty pleased with that. Distance covered, Stefan Jon Gunnarsson was right up there as well. And he also is the highest amount of distance covered per 90 minutes. By quite some amount, actually. So that's good to see. We've got a lot of players that get about the pitch, at least. Average rating overall, Alan Franson was the best player in the division that year. Headers won. Tuvenon. Okay, so Tuvenon wins a lot of headers, and as does Cisse. So Sorensen isn't obviously going to be on there because it's not about ratios. Goals, Alan Franson, king of the hill on that one. Goals per minutes, obviously. Shots overall, Alan Franson has had less shots, but has scored way more goals than people like Dino Zazul. Shots on target, Alan Franson was 67. I'm interested in the ratios. So Franson has a 60% of his shots are on target, which is actually pretty damn good. I'd be interested to know what his ratio of shots on target to goals is, but I think we can look at that when we get to our own team stuff. Team goals, not really that relevant for us. Penalties, not super relevant. Assists, Mikkel Nygaard's done well. Next best for us, amazingly, is Neil Hutchinson, who's got 6 assists, despite the fact that he's barely even played for us this year. Just shows what we could get from him out of a full season would be a lot of assists. So he's definitely going to be starting on the right-hand side next season. Hopefully, Franson through the middle, Hutchinson on the right, and a new player, hopefully, on the left-hand side, if we can. Key passes, Alan Franson with 77. My goodness. He's also got some assists to his name as well. Chances created, Nygaard has created 25 chances, Franson 22. None of our other players up there at all. We're not going to have any on this list by any stretch. Who's our best cross-completionist? Anyone at all? No one in the top 20. An area where we, again, really do need to improve. Nygaard's done okay on the dribbles too, which is kind of interesting. Most goals conceded, or the least rather, so we won't be able to see that one. Tackles per game. Betzer does certainly win a lot of tackles, that's for sure. Both of our fullbacks do, in fact. We've got to have... no, amazingly. Betzer's only made 2 mistakes leading to goals, and Tuvenon has made 2 as well, so not the worst overall. Mistakes overall, though. Gunnarsson was 75 and Betzer was 72. I think we can improve them now by giving them a little bit more direction in what they're supposed to be doing. Key tackles, they should be up there. Cisse, not too bad. Tuvenon, up there as well. Key headers. Interesting to say that our right back has won more key headers than any of our centre backs. So that is noteworthy. Maybe having good in the air wing backs would be a bonus for us. Headers, look at that, 89%. Tuvenon 82. These guys, they're okay. They're certainly doing fine. Goalkeeping, I mean, he was never going to be on there, was he? No chance in hell. Clean sheets, again, no chance in hell. We'll come to that in a minute. Right, let's take a little look at the actual squad themselves. We're going to start with goalkeepers, of course. This is my goalkeeper analysis, but we're going to just turn the filters so that it has every player on the team, but not the ones we don't want to see. So, goalkeepers, we're really only interested in Gaston Garcia and Alfred Johnson. So what I might actually do, just for now, is turn off these. So we've only got the players that are actually in our senior squad for now. So, we've had 2 goalkeepers that have played for us this year. Gaston Garcia has played 1,200 minutes, and Alfred Johnson has played 720 minutes. So, you know, he's played about 2/3 of what Garcia has. So, we can expect for certain things to be around about that. Now, what's this one? I can't remember what this is. Team goals per 90 minutes. Is that team goals conceded? No, it's not, is it? Right. So we've actually scored more goals with Johnson in the team, which is kind of interesting, although I'm not reading too much into that. We've actually conceded more goals as well on average with Gaston Garcia in the team per game, which, again, is interesting. Points per game, we've won less points with Gaston Garcia in the team and more with Alfred Johnson. So, again, worth noting. He's conceded more goals, but he has played more games. But his win percentage is way less. The issue, the thing I'm really looking at here mainly, though, is the fact that Gaston Garcia has kept 5 clean sheets and Alfred Johnson has kept 0 in that time. So I still think overall Gaston Garcia is a better goalkeeper. He outperforms Johnson in every single aspect apart from composure. Sorry, apart from communication. Oh, and aerial, but that's minimal as well. So what I want to do, just turn these back on for a sec and just see if there's any players looking in our sort of our younger ranks of the team, so to speak, that are sort of standing out. So there's Issa Gay here, a French lad, who, decent in the air, he's got great punching, he's got good rushing. He's not, okay, his handling's a little bit poor. He's not too far off the pace of being decent enough to probably be the number 2 in this team. I have to say, that's an area I'm very interested in. He's unambitious. No, he's not. He's balanced. There's a couple of other Argentinians here who've got some decent areas. Pablo San Martin, the reason I like him is because he's got great passing, but we couldn't afford to have 2 goalkeepers on that kind of silly money. So I went with Gaston Garcia in the end because he had a determined personality as well to go with it. So looking at these, the one I'm sort of most excited about potentially, anyway, looking at sort of where he ranks in a lot of these things. In the air, he's one of the best. His throwing's up there too. Punching is one of the best. Rushing is in that top section as well. He's a little bit low on the reflexes, but still definitely passable. One-on-ones, not amazing. Kicking, he's fairly low on kicking, so that's maybe an issue for us. Handling, not amazing either. Eccentricity, he's up there. Communication, not too bad either. And his command of area is a little bit low. But I think of all the goalkeepers that could potentially come through and do something for us, Issa Gueye is probably the one that's going to make the difference for us. Now, what I did want to quickly do as well is just quickly show a comparison between Gaston Garcia and here, I can't remember what his bloody name is, and Johnson. I wish it would just come up with a really obvious one. Here we go, Alfred Johnson. So the comparison is fairly simple, really. Johnson is faster and is a tiny bit better in the air and communicates a little bit more. But when you actually look at his attributes, there's so many areas at which Gaston Garcia is vastly better. Passing is not good for either of them. But I just think that he's a better player and will be better for us going forward. He's also 6'7", which should help. In general, that I would feel would help us overall. Pass completion conceded. He's worse average rating overall. It is certainly noteworthy that that is the case. It's interesting to note that Issa Gueye isn't even mentioned here, but I really do think that he's one that maybe could be our 3rd choice or maybe even 2nd choice next season. Genuinely do. Right, that's enough of goalkeepers for now. Let's take a little gander, get all these filters back on again. Let's go for central defenders for now. So we'll get rid of the goalkeeper analysis and we will head over to a slightly different one, which will be centre-back analysis. Right, so there's a lot more on the screen for this one because there's a lot more riding on the fact that these are the centre-backs. So let's just see who's actually played minutes for us this year in centre-back. Ricky Baird, Carrizo, Nielsen, Cisse, Campbell and Tuvenon. Those are really the only ones that matter for us at the moment. Would it make any difference if I got... Okay, that's good. And... Right, we'll leave it at that. There's no under-19s in those races, but Ricky Baird is at least not a first teamer. I might just move him to the senior squad for the purposes of this. Yeah, that way we can keep all of these guys since they have actually played minutes for us this year as a centre-back. Now, I'm just going to resize all these columns. Just see if we can auto-size all columns. There we go. That way they actually will stay on the screen. So there's a lot of data here. It's fairly clear to see where the best centre-backs are. Casper Nielsen and Fabien Tuvenon are by far the best in terms of their actual ability, with Carrizo being slightly in behind them as well. But who's played the most minutes for us this year? It's got to be Tuvenon and Cisse, Luke Campbell, Nielsen, Carrizo, to a lesser extent. So we can really be looking at what these guys are doing in that period. So team conceded per 90 minutes. The most is actually Carrizo. Nielsen and Tuvenon there. Cisse does all right as well. Luke Campbell, interestingly, played a decent number of minutes and we didn't concede. But I think that comes to do with the fact that the first half of the season, we just seem to be riding on a wave. We played really, really well in very many games, and maybe that's because of players like Luke Campbell. I just don't trust him enough for his other aspects as a defender for us, unfortunately. In terms of tackle one, this is what I mean. Luke Campbell does not win many tackles a game, considering he's a centre-back. 1.22 tackles per game won is not ideal. Nielsen is much more like it. Baird as well, doing pretty well, but not really enough to go on for him. Carrizo a little bit more as well. So there's definitely something there with Carrizo, and I think we'll see more game time out of him next season along the way. Let's see who's the best tackle ratio overall. Casper Nielsen with an 85, which... Is that tackles one ratio? Tackle completion ratio. So 85, Carrizo 87, 82, but then... Cisse and Tuvenon, 70% and 69% of tackles won is not great. Now, I do think perhaps that could be because of the system we're playing, but it's noticeable that Casper Nielsen is a full 15% better at winning tackles than both of his centre-back partnerships. So there's definitely something going on there. He does, of course, have 5 better tackling than anyone else on this team, which, sure, will make some effect to it, but I don't think that's going to be the only reason that he's winning more tackles. There's got to be other things to do with it too. Now, points per game, Luke Campbell out on top there. Cisse with 1.25. Casper Nielsen, despite all of that, we've only won 0.95 goals a game, points per game with him in the team. I don't think he's played enough games for us to really be able to talk about that, but looking at these guys, 1.25 there. Tuvenon, we're only winning just over a point a game, so Cisse definitely... Then again, Cisse generally only plays in the home games, which might be why he's got a slightly higher one, because we generally do win more games at home. That's just how it is. And Luke Campbell generally only played in the home games as well. So, and his is really, really high. So there may be something to that. He also had a very much higher pass completion than anyone else in that area as well. But Carrizo's not looking too bad in that either. So I do wonder if next year we start with Federico Carrizo instead of someone like Cisse. I know Cisse has good passing, but Carrizo's only got two less on the passing front. And maybe he might be one that we could look at instead of Cisse for next year, because he does seem to have performed better overall. And maybe we should start not phasing Cisse out as such, but just looking for other options, since he is technically a better player according to his current ability as well. Points per game, passes, mistakes. Tuvenon has made a lot of mistakes, and that is like twice the amount that Cisse's made, and he's not played twice the amount of games. So Tuvenon does seem a little bit mistake prone. I wonder why that is. His anticipation is a tiny bit worse. Composure is a tiny bit worse. First touch, technique, I don't know. Nothing stands out as being amazingly worse that would contribute to that. It might just be the area of the team that he's being played in. Just gonna have a sip of my drink, guys. So now you've had a bit of ASMR person drinking some water, because talking for 20 minutes straight without having cuts and stuff can get a little bit hard on the old voice. So mistakes leading to goal. Tuvenon made 2 of them as well, which I guess makes sense considering the number of mistakes he's made. Key tackles. Cisse did make more key tackles than him as well, despite winning less of them overall. Kasper Nielsen made 8 key tackles in 700 minutes of football. Now, if we kind of extrapolate that out, sorry, not 8 key tackles. What we're talking about, 16 key tackles in 700 minutes of football. So if we just extrapolate out here and say that if he played the same number of games as Tuvenon, he would have made 4 times that, which means in that period he would have made 64 key tackles. So clearly there is something there that Kasper Nielsen is just in general a much better player. And if I had my choices, I would definitely be going with a Nielsen-Tuvenon partnership in the away games, and then bringing in Carrizo instead of Cisse in the home games. But he has at least made a decent number of key tackles. Key headers, that's an area where, well, I'm surprised Luke Campbell didn't win more key headers, to be perfectly honest. Even Kasper Nielsen won more key headers than him, which I guess means that as much as Campbell was winning lots of headers, it wasn't really contributing too much for us in the team. Key passes per 90 minutes, I was really only using that so I could take a look at what Cisse was doing in that area. But when you actually look at it, Nielsen and Tuvenon have got better key pass ratios than Cisse. Although, no, that's not really going to make any difference with the number of passes he makes. He's just generally better overall. Interceptions is an area, though, where Tuvenon really does shine. Nielsen still within the reasonable range for that one. Carrizo is a little bit on the low side, but perhaps hasn't played enough games to really bed in and give me a fair reflection of what he's like there. Headers won. Luke Campbell, of course, 89%. That was always going to be the case. But interestingly, Tuvenon wins more headers per 90 minutes than Luke Campbell, as does Cisse. So both of them are winning more headers overall, just not winning as many in terms of a ratio. Carrizo a little bit on the low side there. Nielsen doing fine. Baird doing fine as well. So Carrizo, but again, I just don't think we can judge Federico Carrizo too much just yet, because I don't think that's enough minutes for. I think with Nielsen and Campbell, we can judge them on their performances. They played enough games. Carrizo's only played 4 games really, so I don't think that's entirely fair. Games won percentage, Luke Campbell again up there, Baird up there too. The lowest, interestingly, again Kasper Nielsen, but that would come with the lower points tally. It's certainly noticeable though. Average rating overall, Luke Campbell with the highest average rating of all of them. Baird and Carrizo are pretty down low. Kasper Nielsen's been okay. Those 3 there have been probably the best performers. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Luke Campbell could make a comeback. I'm just not entirely sure if that's what we really, really want. Considering he's just not very... Look at that, Ricky Baird, 14 heading, 14 marking. He might actually be one of those players that could come through and make a real difference for us. The only one that's got a poor personality for me is Carrizo, although that could just mean that he's not going to leave the club. Overall value, Cisse is the highest. At least we've got some value in there. So what I'm sort of taking from this is that perhaps next year, if blue sky scenario, in those away tactics with 2 centre-backs, I would still go with Tuvenon and Nielsen. But in that home one, I would be potentially persuaded to drop Cisse and bring in either Carrizo or maybe give Ricky Baird some game time too, and try to rotate that position around and see who makes it their own over a period of fixtures. Right, let's go on and take a little look at the wing backs, because I've made a separate filter for them because I think it's quite important that we do look at the wing backs. So central, left side, no. Senior squad, we'll just see if this makes any difference. If there's any of these guys that aren't in the senior squad already that we definitely need to bring into the team. So custom, let's see, wing back analysis, right. Even more stuff gets piled onto the screen. Auto size all columns. Oh, good God, Nev now gone off the screen. Is there anything important over here? just value and personality. So, minutes this season. We've had minutes from Gunnarsson, Betzer, Borup, Campbell, Gravgaard, and O'Toole. Does me getting rid of any of these make any difference? Right, so O'Toole, I'm just for the purposes of this going to move him into the senior squad, just so we can cut down on these filters just a tiny little bit. Rasmus Kramer and Tommy Peterson are in the first team and have not made a single appearance for us this year. Definitely noteworthy. Although, in all honesty, O'Toole, he's played one game off the bench for 15 minutes. So we can pretty much ignore him as well. What we're really looking for is Gunnarsson, Betzer, Borup. Campbell, not really relevant. I can't believe... Can you imagine putting him at wing back? That would just be... Imagine him gangling along the wing. And Michael Gravgaard has not actually started a single game, but has played nearly 400 minutes off of the bench. Interested to see what his impact has been like in those games, because he is starting to really develop into a hell of a player at the moment and might even have more potential to go forward than Gunnarsson. So that's something we can definitely look into. Maybe start him next year instead. Who knows? Right. Points per game. Luke Campbell, ignore him. Gravgaard has actually won more points per game than anyone else in this one. Him and Borup both right up there. Gunnarsson and Betzer considerably lower down. So I think bringing in Borup for those games has certainly made a difference for us overall. And Gravgaard, maybe there is something to play in Gravgaard next year instead of Stefan Jon Gunnarsson. Maybe Gravgaard has finally earned himself a place in this team, because at the moment it's certainly looking like that. Tackles team conceded per 90 minutes. Gravgaard has conceded a lot of goals with him on the pitch, though, which is interesting, actually, that we've scored more points than any other of the players, but we've conceded a lot more goals with him on the pitch than anyone else. Tackles 1 ratio, Gunnarsson is marginally better. It's noticeable compared to the others that he is better in that role. Betzer and Borup are very much equal in their contributions there, but he is definitely better. Gravgaard does have better pass completion than him, though. Not by much, but again, you can see Borup is outperforming Betzer on that one as well as the amount of points we're winning per game with him in the team. Interceptions. Now, this is an interesting one. Gunnarsson with, wow, look at that, 4.31. Betzer with 3. Borup right down low. And Gravgaard, I don't know if we can judge him on that one, because per 90 minutes is a bit of a weird one because he's not actually played that much. So we might have to leave off the older per 90 minutes one, judging him on that one. Headers 1. Gunnarsson wins a decent number of headers, as does Betzer. Borup, not good in the air. That's an area where Betzer definitely does outperform quite considerably. But he has some other flaws in his game, which we'll come on to in a moment. Games 1 percentage. Borup with the highest one there. Betzer by far with the lowest. So that's definitely noticeable. Dribbles per game. This is an area I'd really want to see it higher. Gunnarsson and Borup are the best dribblers. Betzer, again, very, very poor with the dribble. What is Betzer's dribbling? And is noticeably poor there. But look, Borup has only got 2 dribbling, and yet is definitely vastly better. Well, not vastly better, but he's definitely outperforming him on the dribble. There must be other areas where perhaps there's a reason for that. Perhaps some acceleration and work rate, perhaps? Let's see. Betzer's acceleration is 15. I don't know. It's interesting, though, that Betzer's dribbling is so poor. And that's a real drawback for a guy that you want going down that wing. I want him bursting past people and getting those balls in the box. That's going to be really difficult if he can't get past anyone in the first place. Average distance run per 90 minutes. Gravgaard, look at that. Although, again, he's obviously going to be fresh every single time. Betzer does run a little bit more than Borup, so there is that. What's this one here? Number of chances created overall. This is an important one for me. Gunnarsson with 10, Betzer with 8, Borup with 6. 2 for Gravgaard in a very short space of time. Let's see what the averages are per 90 minutes. Is that, yeah, chances created per 90 minutes? Yeah, so 50, well, an average of half a chance per 90 minutes for him. Gunnarsson actually has the lowest, interestingly. So is that because his crossing is poor? He's got 5 crossing, but that's just as bad as everyone else there, really. Nobody has standout amazing crossing stats. We'll open this up and actually see if there's anyone in the background that might have amazing crossing stats to bring into the team at some point next year. Assists per 90 minutes, though. Again, Gravgaard right up there. Gunnarsson, again, right down there. Betzer and Borup have both created more assists, but I don't know how many exactly, but it's noticeable how bad Gunnarsson is in that area. I wonder what his cross completion is like. I'm surprised I haven't actually got this in part of this analysis. I might have to add that for the... Oh, hang on. No, wait. Cross is completed. There we go. So the cross completion, very important one. Betzer with 19. Borup. Gunnarsson is only 10. So an area of the team that really is lacking. Betzer is much, much better. He's great in... Betzer is excellent from an attacking standpoint, it would seem. What he really does lack is his defensive role in the team. He's not quite right for us yet, but he's still young and he will still get better. So maybe we do give him another chance next year and see how he does, because he completes a lot of damn crosses. twice as many as Stefan Gunnarsson, and Gravgaard is outperforming Gunnarsson there as well. So definitely something to look into, and maybe next year Michael Gravgaard could be our starting right winger, because I'm seeing things here that I'm liking about him. His average rating overall, perhaps that's a little unfair because a lot of that's come off the bench, and he's done fairly well in that time. No mistakes leading to goals, but again, less, and 2 for better is quite high. He's made the same number of mistakes as, yeah, that's the thing. He's made nearly the same number of mistakes as Gunnarsson, despite the fact that Gunnarsson's played an extra 800 minutes in the team. But then you could also argue that Borup's made a hell of a lot of mistakes too. Gravgaard has only made 10, but I mean, I suppose we could extrapolate that out as well and say that it's probably quite a fair amount. They've all got relatively decent personalities. Fairly professional is what I like to see, but they're all fairly balanced. They've got some light-hearted ones in there as well. I'm thinking next year, maybe Betzer and Gravgaard could be our starting right-backs, but with Stefan Gunnarsson, maybe we could sell him? I don't know. Maybe an Icelandic side would be fancy, because he has been asked about moves before, so you never know, really, with that. So let's just turn back on the filters and see what else we got, because we've got a lot of players that identify as this position. Who has the best crossing out of all of them? It's Kenny Jensen with 8 crossing. He's still got that 2-star potential. Maybe he's a player that we could get into those roles. It would be interesting to see how he compares to someone like Borup, because his crossing is better than anyone else's by miles. I'm going to compare him to Rasmus Borup and see kind of what... I feel like there's other areas of the team, though, where he's just going to be completely outclassed, and that's going to be the main issue for him. So Rasmus Borup on this left-hand side. Attributes. Let's look at the graph in general. They're not too bad. Jensen's got his better crossing and better dribbling as well. Better first touch. But he's not being outclassed in any of these areas. He's much braver. His aggression is very low, though, in comparison. Some of his mental stats, but I suppose that's to be expected from a player who's a lot younger. He's got better agility, better jumping reach, which would be good in the air. What's his heading like? Tiny bit worse, but he's got that better jumping reach, massively. Natural fitness is a little on the low side. Pace isn't bad. Stamina and strength are also better. I wonder if maybe Kenny Jensen could be a player that makes a resurgence for us and actually has something to say about this. Now, maybe if we just compare him to Betzer and see if there's any kind of main differences between the two. So again, he's massively outperforming there. Betzer has some slightly better mental stats and again, is better in terms of his overall fitness levels. But I do wonder if Kenny Jensen could be the player that we've completely forgotten about and might be worth trying out next season in that role, or certainly giving him more of a role in the first team next year. Maybe as a sort of number 2 to Betzer and slowly moving Borup out of the fray. Because I think there's some options, certainly from an attacking perspective, that Jensen could be very, very useful for us. Maybe play Jensen as the wing-back in the home games and then play Betzer as a more withdrawn sort of fullback in our away games where we need to do that. Maybe he'll be better from that percent. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm thinking out loud here. Let me know what you think about that one, guys. I'll be interested to know what you have to say on that one. So, let's move on to the centre midfielders. Don't worry, we've got a filter for them as well. Let's just turn... Actually, we'll leave those on for now. Get rid of defenders. Go for central midfielders. Here we go. How many of these have we got? Probably quite a few. So, Einstein. Let's just turn these filters off. Does any of those guys disappear? No, right. That's excellent. None of those guys have played for us this year, so that's perfect. Einstein can kind of eliminate him from contention here. Only played 16 minutes off the bench very briefly, and I think that might have actually been... I don't know when that was. Runar Ingolfsson hasn't played as much as you'd have thought he has. Only 400 minutes and 4 starts. He's sort of fallen by the wayside a bit this year. No one's been playing amazing amounts of minutes. No one's had like 2,500 minutes. Benson, of all people, has actually played the most. Thorstenson in there as well. Ponzio's played a fair amount. Tajan C. Julian's ones are annoying because these are only his stats since he came back on loan and not from before. So, best points per game. Let's go. Is Soren Dirmosa. 1.44 points per game with Soren Dirmosa in the team. That is very, very interesting to me. The fact that he is so much higher than everyone else. And I think he outperforms a lot of these guys in many areas. And we might need to take a look at him a little bit more seriously next year as a contender for a first team spot. Team conceded per 90 minutes. Dirmosa is fairly low on that one as well. Benson is much, much higher. And Tajan C, who also played a lot of the times with Dirmosa earlier in the season, is fairly high on that too. So again, Dirmosa winning a lot of these categories already, although Ingolfsson did perform a tiny bit better. And Julian, not too bad as well. No, they were the same. Tackles 1 ratio. Now, this is a bit unfair because some of these players aren't really in the position to do that. So Thorstenson is a player who I would be wanting to win tackles, and he is. 76% of them, which is nice. Benson is a player who I'd want to be winning tackles, and he is not. In fact, has one of the lowest tackle 1 ratios in this team. His tackling, though, is the best. So there's obviously other areas of Benson's game that's letting him down there. His dribbling is fairly low. Crossing is fairly low. Oh, I've still got them on wing-back analysis. That's idiotic of me. Right. Let's try this again. Assists per 90 minutes, Diomosa with 2. This is the thing. He's the highest assisting midfielder in this team with 2. Ponzio's only got 1, and Diomosa has got 2 assists for this team. There's definitely something there, which we need to look at. Chances created. 7 chances Diomosa has created. Julian with 5, Benson with 5, Ponzio only with 3 chances created. Per 90 minutes, gets even better. Diomosa is absolutely wiping the floor with some of these guys, and I think it's about time we brought him in from the cold and made him our starting attacking playmaker next year. I know Ponzio might complain, but we can't argue with the stats that Diomosa's putting on the table here. Dribbles. Ponzio's at least a little bit better at dribbling. Diomosa's certainly subpar, but I guess we kind of rely on other players to do his dribbling for him. But it's nice to see that Ponzio is at least capable of doing that. Games won ratio, Diomosa, 44%. Yet again, dominating things. Headers won, I'd expect him to be somewhat off the pace, fairly down low. Ponzio is winning 80% of his headers, and that is nice to see. It's nice to see someone capable of winning some headers for us in the midfield. Just going to auto-size these a bit, just so we can see everything that we need to see. Just have another little sip of my drink. Apologies. Oh, God, that's good. Right. Where were we? Headers won per 90 minutes. Again, massively above, but Benson's not doing too badly on that either. He's just not winning quite as many in terms of the number he challenges for. Key passes. This is important for me. Diomosa again, 26 key passes he's played, whereas Ponzio has only played 13. So Diomosa's played less games, and he's only played 4 games from the beginning. This is crazy. Soren Diomosa has only started 4 matches this season, and he's got 26 key passes. We need to get Soren Diomosa in the team next year. He is the first name on the goddamn team sheet in that position. I want to figure out why, but I think it might have something to do with the fact that he's got that 17 flair, which is vastly more than anyone else. But interestingly, the second best flair player on the team is Tajan C, who massively has loads of those key passes as well. Thorstenson has them too, but he's played in a slightly different position and has played a lot more minutes. And I'm guessing that comes from him having really good passing, potentially. Where is passing? Is it further along? Is there more? There's more. Here we go. Passing. I don't know who's who. Right, this is going to get a bit confusing now. Thorstenson is this guy here, so we'll just highlight him and have a little look. Does he have good passing? Yes, he's got one of the best passing on the team. Interestingly, Diomosa, 6 passing. 6. He has 6 passing, and yet has made by far the most key passes per 90 minutes. Just completely wiping the floor with everyone else. Key passes per 90 minutes, 3. When you look at someone like Ponzio, he's 3 times better for what we actually need him to do, which is create chances for us. He is the man for that, and I am so sorry, Soren. I am so sorry. He's bald as the day he was born, and he says he needs to leave to get first team football. Mate, you are going to get all the first team football you want next season. Believe me, he's 20 years old. I think he could be our starting centre midfielder next year. Not centre midfielder, our starting attacking playmaker comfortably, without a problem in the world. He's been so good. I do worry about that defensive midfield role. I think that might be an area we need to look at. We do have George Hagan, who we will have a look at compared to Dan Benson in a minute. He's the Scottish guy who's already had some call-ups for the underage sides, which makes me think there might be something to that, and maybe we could start phasing out Dan Benson. Because the thing is about Benson, he just isn't that good. He's not done a great deal for us. Diomosa even has nearly the same number of interceptions per 90 minutes as Dan Benson. This guy is incredible. It doesn't make many key tackles, but then Benson's only made 1 key tackle. It's just unacceptable. Pass completion, Diomosa 70. That's fine. Ponzio slightly more, Julian slightly more, but it's all within a reasonable area. Ingolson is a little bit on the low side. Points per game, well, we know it's already Soren Diomosa. Shots on target, that's not really that important for us. Tackles 1. Thorstenson, we already looked at that one at the start, didn't we? Tackles per game. Tackles, what's that one? Team conceded per 90 minutes. We already looked at that. So, what I'm seeing here is that Diomosa needs to start next year. Probably with Thorstenson alongside him, who's played a pretty good role, despite his average rating not being great for a lot of this. He does seem to have actually contributed a decent amount, and maybe with the right support around him, he could flourish. Julian probably as the ball-winning midfielder when we need that role, but I do think we need to look at maybe bringing through George Hagan. We're actually going to show you that now. Show the comparison with Dan Benson and George Hagan, just so we can see what gaps, what gaps George Hagan's game has, and whether it just looks like he's ready to come straight in. Here he is, George Hagan. So, oh my God. There's clearly a lot of work that needs to be done here. My goodness. He is not anywhere near ready for this team. Wow. That's really that's not good at all. Hagen's better in the air, and he's faster. He's also a little bit taller and right-footed. He's more of a ball-winning midfielder, but look at this. He has less in every single conceivable area. Don't get me wrong. I think this guy's got potential. I just don't think he's ready to be playing anytime soon. When you look at the other teams, other players... Oh, maybe what about Cornelius? Let's have a look at Cornelius. I remember showing you guys him earlier in the campaign. Let's see what Cornelius is like as a comparison. Is he any better? He at least takes some of these away from Benson. Better first touch, better crossing, better long throws, bit more long shots, which is a worry. Much braver, more determined, and better leadership, which is interesting. His teamwork... Someone like Gabriel Cornelius might be someone that could certainly deputise in there, and he's much, much better from a physical perspective. He is equal or better to Devin Benson in every single physical area except for his strength. He is 6 foot tall as well. He's right only, not quite as strong, but I do wonder. He's not very flairdy. Flairdy? That isn't even a word, Matt. I do wonder if Gabriel Cornelius is worth bringing in for some games next year, seeing how he does. See how he does over the summer in some friendlies as well. Because Benson is a bit of a problem. But you never know. We might get lucky and get some amazing defensive midfielder come through one of these youth intakes that we are desperately trying to bring in. Because that's one of the areas where we really don't seem to have got any gems in just yet. Although maybe Gabriel Cornelius could be that gem. So that's kind of what I'm looking at next year. Demosa, definitely. Thorstensen in there. Julian for the ball-winning midfielder in the away tactic, potentially. And then Benson, maybe. But that's an area I definitely want to look at a little bit more. Right. Finally, let's take a look at the strikers. I'm going to switch to this before we get to that point. That way, we don't make any mistakes like we did on the previous one and end up repeating ourselves. So, strikers down the centre. Is there any more that... Okay, so there are some more. Askari Nieberg, just for the purposes of this... I am just going to bring him in to the senior squad. And Muller is not relevant with him. Right, so let's get rid of those guys and those guys. Right, these are all the strikers that have played minutes, with the exception of Jakob Muller, who hasn't played enough for it to matter just yet. Just going to do a quick shuffle-aroo of these columns. Just bring it in a little bit. So, wow, look at this. Miguel Nygaard is the only one that's over the age of 20, and he's 31. How are we doing on the personalities of these guys? Very unambitious, balanced. None of them are like fairly professional. I really want a professional personality in one of our main strikers, but it was not to be. So, minutes, team considered per 90 minutes, not super important from our strikers. Mikkel Nygaard of Franson, certainly on the lower side of that. Wait, where's Neil Hutchinson? Where's Neil Hutchinson? God damn it, Neil. I must have put him back in the B team for a bit when I wasn't sure he was going to get any games. We need Neil. Everybody needs a bit of Neil. Right. How's he done in those games? Wow, actually, he's got the best. So that certainly shows something. Neil Hutchinson has started 7 games and come off the bench in 6 of them. So he's played more game time. He's not played as many minutes as Brendan O'Neill, but he has started more games than him. Toure and Nebo have played minimal games. Tackles completion ratio. Toure, I don't know how many tackles he's actually made, but it is interesting to note that Brendan O'Neill, look at this compared. Nygaard, 75% of his tackles he wins. Franson, 60%. Neil Hutchinson, sure, only 40%. But Brendan O'Neill, he's not even trying, is he? He certainly doesn't win the ball back off of teams high up the pitch for us, that's for sure. Tackles per game. That means that every 10 games that go by, Brendan O'Neill makes a tackle. That's 3 a season if he played a full year. Incredible stuff. Shots per 90 minutes. Franson, look at that, so much higher. Nyberg, Hutchinson, Brendan O'Neill. Nygaard does not shoot a lot, which I guess maybe means he has a tendency to pass to Alan Franson, and I'm all right with that. But it's nice to see someone like Askari Nyberg up there, although small sample size, don't read too much into that. But Neil Hutchinson, also nicely high on that one too. I'm liking Neil Hutchinson. I'm thinking... he looks like he could definitely be a starting forward for us next season. A full season of him getting the right training, he could really be something. He's got not super loads of goals in his game, but he does have goals. He's definitely got goals, but his main area of the team is his assists. He's got a great number of assists. So, moving along to shots on target. Neil Hutchinson, 67% of his shots have been on target as well. Very, very pleasing. There's definitely a lot to say about that when he's outperforming Alan Franson. Nygaard, 50%. Brendan O'Neill, they're all round about that 50% mark, which isn't too bad, I guess, as long as they stay down there. Toure much lower. He's played enough games for me to sort of consider that relevant now, that he's not getting a lot of shots on target per 90 minutes either. Franson with the most there. Hutchinson slipping in behind. Nygaard actually only averages a shot on target about once a game. which is interesting, considering that he has got a few goals for us this year. Franson averages around 2 per game, and he basically scores with half of them, maybe a tiny bit more, in fact. So that's interesting. Points per game. Neil Hutchinson. Look at this. Neil Hutchinson. 1.69 points per game when Neil Hutchinson has played. This guy is starting for us next year. And guess who's bottom of that? Brendan O'Neill, with only 0.56 points per game with Brendan O'Neill in the team. It goes without saying, really, doesn't it, when you have to talk about that. Franson and Nygaard, interestingly, above Franson. Toure, okay. Franson has played a lot of games, though, so his has kind of averaged out over the season. The ones that I find more interested in are the players that don't always play, because it does really then show you what effect they have when they do play. And it shows you that Brendan O'Neill, when he does play, is goddamn awful. And it shows you that when Neil Hutchinson plays, he's goddamn terrific, with shots on target for days, creating passes. He's probably got one of the best pass completions, in fact. Joint top with, well, pretty much everyone except a scorer in Ebo. That's amazing that they've all got the identical pass completion ratio. Key passes per 90 minutes, though. Who's doing well on that one? Alan Franson, actually, with 2.4. But Neil Hutchinson's right up there as well. Brendan O'Neill, again, maybe he's better for assists. Who knows? When you look at the assists, he has actually got 4 assists this season. He's played a few more games than Neil Hutchinson, but 4 assists isn't that bad. And that kind of leads to the idea that maybe Brendan O'Neill is better when he's not being asked to rely on for goals. But I don't want to. I wouldn't rely on him to get me a newspaper from the corner shop at the moment. So we're not going to be relying on him for anything anytime soon. Average key passes: Brendan O'Neill 21, Hutchinson 18. Nygaard, amazingly, has had 20 less key passes, or 26 less key passes than Alan Franson, but has got 12 assists, so double the amount of assists. So his key passes really do matter. Headers won ratio: Nygaard, amazingly, has 37% headers won. That is baffling. Is he taller than Alan Franson or something? It's the only thing. It's 5'11". Alan Franson is 6'1". Who has better heading? He's got worse heading. His jumping reach is worse, yet he's winning more headers. What's his strength like? And that could be the only thing I can think of. It's 3. How is Nygaard winning more headers than Alan Franson? Is it because Franson is in the middle and more balls are being targeted to him? That's all I can think of. Because when we actually look at the number of headers he wins per 90 minutes, it is vastly more than the others. But again, vastly more than what Brendan O'Neill is doing. Neil Hutchinson wins way more of them, despite, certainly per game anyway. Goals per 90 minutes. Well, I mean, Hutchinson actually has a better goals per 90 minutes ratio too than even Mikael Nygaard. So there's definitely something to be said there. Games won percentage, Hutchinson with 54%. We've won more than half of our games that Neil Hutchinson has features in. We have won. I'm going to get this guy on a contract right now. Seriously, he's pulled knee ligaments right now. I'm going to offer him a new contract. We have to offer him part-time, yeah, £375 a week. I'm going to do this right now, right here, right now. We can offer him a full 2-year deal right now. There's no way he's going to ask for anything in addition to that. There we go. Neil Hutchinson, we need this guy. I want to tie him down just in case someone comes in for him, because I really do think he is the future of this team, potentially. Certainly from an assists point of view. We just need someone who can put them away and hopefully keep Alan Franson to keep doing that for us. Let's deal with this one. Fouls against. Franson does certainly draw a lot of fouls to him as well. Overall, dribbles per game. This is an interesting one. So Neil Hutchinson again, outdoing everyone by miles with the dribbles. Now, why is that? Has he got really good dribbling stat? Where's the dribble? He's got 9, which is not as good as Brendan O'Neill, of all people, which would explain why Brendan O'Neill is also in there. He's just inept in other areas, which brings it down a little bit. I know this has turned into the Neil Hutchinson fawn over him hour, but you can't deny the stats on this team that he has done well for us this year. And this is why, if I could just step up on my soapbox for a second, this is why I think it's important to analyze this kind of stuff. And I haven't really done this before. And I think if you really want to take your save seriously, doing this kind of stuff is important, because without this, I wouldn't have known how important Diamosa has been to our team. And I wouldn't have really, I was kind of getting an idea, but I wouldn't have really known just how important Neil Hutchinson could be to this team in future, definitely. There's so much that this guy could offer this team with the role that he plays for us at the moment. Let's see. Crosses, I mean, of course look at this. Wait, no. Wait, what's this? Cross completed crosses attempt. So, Nyberg nicely up there. Brendan O'Neill actually does have a decent cross completion ratio of 23%. Nygaard with 17%. Neil Hutchinson's is very, very low, which is strange considering how many good passes he's played and how many good crosses I've seen him put in. So we'll see if that continues. That's something I would need to keep an eye on. His is crossing really low. We can't actually see because I haven't got that set up for a striker, have I? His crossing is literally 1. What is Brendan O'Neill's crossing? 4. So his crossing is 4 times better. And yeah, I guess I'm not too bothered about that. I mean, I am bothered, but something to keep an eye on. Brendan O'Neill has the most chances created per 90 minutes. That is amazing. But I mean, I'm trying to give him credit where I can. I just find problems with doing that sometimes. If you look at the average ratings of our players as well, he's definitely the third best player in this team in terms of his average rating. So there's definitely a reason why he's in there. 6 assists is good. His assists per 90 minutes is off the goddamn charts. He's just so much better than all of these other guys. Let's try and figure out why. So what's he like? His aggression is very low. I don't know how that would really make any difference. Anticipation is sort of mid-range. Bravery, again, on the low side. Composure has the highest composure of any player in the team. That is interesting. Decisions, fairly low again. Determination, not amazing. His off the ball is excellent. So that means maybe he's finding good positions. Work rate is all right. His strength is sort of middle of the range. Jumping reach is, again, the same. His balance, a little bit on the low side, in fact. Acceleration, again, a little bit on the low side. Passing, not fantastic. His heading, you know, not brilliant. He's not winning at any of these. His first touch, again, a little bit on the low side. Finishing, fairly solid, actually, considering he doesn't score many goals. And his dribbling isn't fantastic either. So what is it about Neil Hutchinson that is making him so successful? He's light-hearted. That's the only difference between him and these other players. If anyone can see this and go, why is Neil Hutchinson doing so well? If you've seen something that I haven't, let me know, because I'm very interested. What have you seen here that I haven't? Or is it just that it's some intangible value that Neil Hutchinson brings to this team that is very much worth keeping? So, looking at this from a tactical perspective, I'm just going to sort of show you where I want to go for... Oh, actually, no. Before we do that, I do want to turn the filters back on and see if there's anyone amazing sort of lurking off to the side. So aggressive players, loads of players there. We've got a few of these sort of, oh, it's even potentially Chris Foster. But when you look at their other stats, there's nothing fantastic. Philip White has some okay. Well, who's the best finisher in the entire team? Chris Foster again. Okay, he's 21 though. He must have other flaws to his game. Yeah, I mean, his finishing is excellent, but he lacks in almost every other area of his game, which is why I don't think there's any point in keeping him here. Dribbling, who's a good dribbler? Brendan O'Neill is the best dribbler in the entire team. Jumping reach? Oh, this is another guy I'm really interested in. This is Ignacio Salvatierra, who's one of the Argentinians who, wow, actually, I tell you what, since he's come in, his potential ability has very much adjusted itself to the point where I don't think he's going to develop that much more. Poor home guard, who will be available for us next... Oh, dear. I think he might have just played a game. I hope that's the case anyway. But when's he available to actually play for us? He'll be available from the 1st of September to play for us. He's not bad. His finishing is a little bit on the low side. But he's got that kind of wing ability to him as well. I think he'll definitely get some game time for us next year. I'd have to say, we've got so many players here. It really is hard to sort of see through it all at the moment. That's kind of the problem. Let's put the filters back on and get all positions on all sides and sort of see where I want to go next year. So we want next year, definitely, Neil Hutchinson there. Franson down this role here, if at all possible. And Mikael Nygaard, for now, here. In the middle, I want to go with Soren Dermosa. Despite all these other players being better than him, he's just better in what he does. For the centre midfield role, we're going to go with Thorstensen for now. Although maybe putting Ponzio there can help from time to time. Benson is a provisional in this role. Nielsen and Tuvenant in this tactic, I'd probably stick with it. Gunnarsson, I'm a little unsure as to whether I want to put Gravgaard in now. Because again, look at that. He's more comfortable in the role as well. On this side, Betzer or potentially even Kenny Jensen for that role. So, who knows? As for goalkeepers, yeah, Garcia. But we do have to take a look at Isagay as well as a potential option. Don't say that his name in Jar Jar Binks' voice. It sounds worse. That's kind of what I'd like to do for now. But again, a lot of this could change over the summer because we could lose Alan Franson very, very easily. We could lose... who else could we lose? We're probably going to lose Nielsen too. I mean, I'd like to think that we could at least keep him up until Christmas and get the first half of the season done. But if an amazing offer comes in, then I'm going to accept it because I'd rather have some potential money down the line than... You know, I think defensively, if he doesn't play, then sure, we can get Carrizo, and we do have other defenders. The main issue I'm worried about is Alan Franson, god damn it. Because if he goes, and let's face it, there's a very good opportunity for him to do that. Although, weirdly, he's only wanted by Hobro. minor interest from Hobro, end of contracts. Bloody hell, I'm going to change that. 20k. Confirm that. Offer new contract. He's currently unhappy at the club, and there's nothing I can really do about that. He's not getting enough attention during shooting chain. And the issue is, every time I change that to give him more attention, another area of his game gets affected by it, and he complains about that. He's also worried about the poor atmosphere in the dressing room. What's the atmosphere in the dressing room like? Average. Okay. Where's the promises? There's a promises page. I swear I made him a promise to improve it. He's happy to see improvements in the dressing room. So maybe in 25 days, I can offer him another contract, and we might be able to get him on it before he... wait, when does his contract actually finish? It's the 30th of May so far. His contract finishes on the 30th of June. So that means that if we might still have a chance at keeping him. It could cost us a fair amount of money, but if we are able to keep him for another season, I would be very, very pleased with that. Now, I don't really know what else to show you. Finances are a little bit sketchy at the moment. As you can see, we have some very bad months a lot of the time because we are paying out a fair amount more in terms of wages. We're committed to spending a bit more now because I've just offered Neil Hutchinson that contract. Projection-wise, it's not looking too bad. It is still negatives, but I think if we can each year move a little bit further up the league, get a tiny bit more prize money each time, because remember, if we were to somehow get into those really high spots in the league, we could get like 600 grand for a season and still be fairly comfortable. And I mean, if you win this league over a full year and win it, you get like over £1 million. And I think even if you get relegated from the top flight, it's like another $1.5 million or something. Plus the TV money's way more. So I think financially we're still on a decent footing, but we do need to keep an eye on things. Sponsors and stuff, it's not great. But both of them expire soon, which means hopefully we should be able to get 2 new sponsors. And I really hope that we get better sponsors than the ones we currently have. Just a tiny bit more money that we could have coming in would be gold dust for us right now. That's really the case. There's no debts or loans. Wages, we're doing okay for now. At the moment, we've got a lot of players on this hot prospect situation going at the moment. We do need to be careful to keep an eye on that kind of stuff, though. So yeah, here is how the club is shaping up towards the end of it. I don't really need to show you this at all, do I? But I'm going to anyway. We are semi-professional, regional for our reputation, and our finances are okay. It did dip into insecure at one point this year, so we do need to be careful on that one. What about our facilities? Let's see if we can just take a little look at this at the moment. So, synthetic pitch at the moment. If we did go up, we would have to share a stadium with another team, but I don't think it's because of the pitch. I think it's because of the size of the stadium, or it might be because of the seating situation. I don't know. Stadium condition is good under soy hootie. Oh, we do have that. Cool. No roof, obviously. Corporate facilities are adequate. Training facilities are basic. We've got poor data analysis, basic youth, but extensive youth recruitment and adequate junior coaching, which I think is one of the areas we really do need to keep investing money in. I would like to improve the actual youth facilities themselves. The issue is that they do cost a lot of money. The last time we did it, it cost us 86 grand. And you can only imagine that the next step in that would probably cost us like 200,000. So that's something that might have to take a back seat for now. I don't know what else we can really talk about at the moment. As for dynamics, oh yeah, we're going to have to do a next season meeting, but I can handle that for the next episode. What about hierarchy at the moment? Have we got any team leaders? I think we do. Nygaard and Franson. Yeah, both Mikael Nygaard and Alan Franson are considered to be team leaders. Borup is a highly influential player, but no one else is really there. And that's something we do need to improve on. Hopefully keeping a consistent squad will help with that a little bit. Social groups. Most people are in the core social group. It's just a couple of lads in a secondary one with the 2 Argentinians. Although I think some of them might well have integrated into the main social group too. No, maybe not. Hopefully they will do over time. And a couple of others as well. I think Ponzio probably will get into this one eventually. So that's fine. So, that should about conclude it. We're coming up to the hour mark right now. I don't think I would have had to done pretty much any editing. I've literally just sat here and talked for an entire hour. My throat is hurting, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the sort of stuff we've discussed, and plans for next season are a little bit more concise for us, and we've now got a kind of way forward. So, if you have enjoyed this episode, do be sure to drop a like, and in fact, if you're still listening at this point, write chandelier in the comments. I want to mess with people. I did this last time I did one of these. I just want to see what people think. So yeah, drop chandelier in the comments, and drop a like on the video if you enjoy this and want to see more of these. Oh, not more, but like one every season. Do let me know about that as well, so I can kind of gauge the reaction on that. So, and subscribe to the channel if for some reason this is the first video of mine you're watching. Don't know why you would choose to do that, but if it is, then great. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, I guess, for the first episode of the brand new season, where hopefully I can put some of these plans that we've just made into action. Really hope so. See you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.